Ambitious. But brilliant. Mule with it. Wood's got round the back. And Richie Wood has done it again. The magic man has come up with another trick. Well, here's a chance to seal it. It's done. It's Geordie Pirlo. Rotherham United's pathway back to the Championship is opening up.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast. Thank you for being with us. We thought we'd miss an episode last Thursday because nothing will happen. There'll be nothing to talk about. So we proceeded to sign 2 players. We've got plenty to cover, as well as the leaving of Mr. Barlasser as well. We will cover all that in the next hour or so. Danny will be with us shortly. He is doing an errand at the minute. He will be with us very, very shortly. But you have myself and Mick to start with. How are you doing, Mick?
I'm all good, mate. Thank you. All good. Thank you. You?
Very, very good. Thank you very much. We'll start, as I always like to, is please do follow us and subscribe. If you're not already, please subscribe on the YouTube channel. We're creeping up to the target of 900 subscribers. So please do get on there if you haven't done already, because we've got stuff coming up over the next few weeks and whatnot. So there's only one place to start. Let's go through some comments first of who's with us at the minute. Phil Rawlinson, Kim Haywood, Steve Thomas. You're all with us so far. Sean Green, Damian Carwood. John Morell says, evening, lads. Nice you've had a week off while he was on holiday. Time it well. Yeah. And Harvey Kelvick says, I'm not crying. You are. Yeah. So
listen, I mean, we're going to move it on to something completely different now. I'm going to say it's great news, and I'm really happy that that Ratings have made #1 album. I think it's fantastic. So if you haven't bought it, go out and buy it. Keep it at #1, boys and girls. So it's been a good week, all in all. Has something else happened that I don't know about?
Something may have happened today, that's been... Yeah, it might have done. Yeah, Dan Barlas has left Rotherham United.
What?
We'll go through... There's loads of comments about him, as you may have expected, but we'll go through those in a minute. We'll also get Danny's view on things in a minute when Danny's with us. It's strange, Mick, because it feels like he's been around forever. And it's again strange in a way, because when he came to us, he looked like a kid. He physically looked like a kid, and when it's the first couple of months, obviously, it didn't quite work out for him. But he's now just going with. I can't recall many players going with as much affection as he's going with today. There will be a couple, but there's barely a bad word said about him today on social media. Everything's positive. Yeah. There's no, you're leaving us for this, that, and the other. It's just, thank you, really.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I can't think in my memory. I'm sure there will be, like you said, but I can't think of anybody who's left and gone with almost unanimous good wishes. So that's just a credit. It's a credit to the lad. It's it's just a credit purely and simply to him, the way he's been, the way he's played, the way he is, everything about him. So, good luck to him. He deserves to be playing in the Premier League. He's good enough to play in the Premier League, no question about that. And I for one, will certainly be shouting on Middlesbrough to get that. Well, I suspect it might be via playoffs, looking at the league table. But yeah, I'm sorry to see him go, but I'm thankful for what we've had from him. He is a hell of a player.
Mm. Yeah, he is. He's well, like I said, when he came, we saw the talent he had. And to be fair to the previous management, which we always should be, I think it's great how he matured. The previous management clearly had a key part to play in terms of his maturity as well. As Dan mentioned in his sort of leaving note, as well. We'll go through some Dan moments in a minute as well. We'll go through some comments. John Hensby says, good evening. All bittersweet these days, some potentially great additions, tempered by the loss of Morrison, which we'll talk about later on. And Barlasser, the life of the Millers, eh? Yes. Yeah. We've got a good one. Paramount UK says, blow Dan's gone, but on the positive, we got some money and he's not with the pigs. That's true. That is very, very true. Jamie says, gutted that he's left, but happy for the lad. Hope his Premier League dreams come true. But surely a player of his qualities is worth more. Can't remember the last time we saw the player for 3 million plus. True. Mike the Miller, Dan was a class act. He leaves us with a heavy heart, but best wishes for the successful future and thanks for the wonderful memories. Brian Vin, there's loads of these. We could go on all night. We could just not say anything, add anything. We'll just go through these comments. The Brian Vin says, gutted Dan's gone, but don't blame him at all. He's up there with Tony Towner, who's an all-time favourite Millers. He was worth the entrance fee alone. Glenn Hoddle class. Yeah, he must be a good player if you get, the Geordie Pirlo, the Geordie Hoddle. If you're getting compared, getting these comparisons, you're not a bad player, are you really?
Yeah, precisely. And listen, he's got so much quality, and I've just seen a comment somewhere down there about maybe not sure he'll cut it in the Premier League. Definitely help him get promoted from Jack. I think he would cut it in Premier League. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Because even in the Championship, you get less time on the ball than you do in the Premier League. And if you give Dan Barlas a time on the ball, he is going to put it on a sixpence. He's going to absolutely nail it 99 times out of 100. So I think he would, or I think he will. I don't think there's no would about it. He will cut it in the Premier League whenever he gets there, whether it be with Middlesbrough or whether he moves on from there. So I'm sad. I'm sad that he's gone, but it was inevitable. Unless we were in the position that Middlesbrough were in now, God forbid, that I can't see that happening any time in the near future. Then it was always going to go on to better things. So it goes with absolutely all the best wishes that you could possibly give him, to be honest.
Where does he rate me? Because this is the age-old question whenever this type of player leaves. I mentioned earlier he's one of the best midfielders I can remember seeing. Somebody mentioned Frex, which is very, very true. But they're very, very different players. You've got two people. It's like Rathbone and Barlas. They're almost incomparable because of the jobs that they do. But where does he rate? Somebody mentioned there his favourite player along with Tony Towner. Where does Barlas rate in the list of Rotherham greats?
He's right up there because of his ability, and not only that, because of his personality as well. He could have stayed at Newcastle and then toughed it out there, but he didn't. He came to little old Rotherham, and developed his career. I always like back to, and I've mentioned it a few times in the past, Steve Thompson, who played that very same position that Dan Barlas plays. And Tomo was at the end of his career when he came to us. He was absolutely outstanding. I think for me, Dan is a better player. He's a better player. And Tomo was probably one of my favourite ever Rotherham United midfielders just because of his ability to read the game. Dan Barlas has got it. He's got all that, but he's also got other attributes as well that Tomo didn't have. Youth being one of them. Mate, as far as central midfielders go, he is probably one of the best I've seen that's ever played at this club. And I know we're banging on now and being all sort of.
We can't now, he's gone.
But he is. There's no doubt about it. And I just hope, for Dan's sake, that we've had a lot of players at our club, through our club, with huge potential. Very few of whom have gone on to realise that potential. I hope that Dan's the first one that really does make it crack. He certainly deserves to be, and he's got the ability. So, but yeah, he's up there with one of the best central midfielders we've ever had, no doubt about it.
John Hensby says Barlas rates highly in terms of middle midfielder. He says second only to Frecklington.
Yeah,
you're second only to Frecklington, then you've done a damn good job at this football club. What Frecklington's did for us. If you're in that conversation, you've done very, very, very well.
Yeah.
Sam Harfield rightly says Jody Morris is a good shout. When we had him briefly in the early 2000s, he was exceptional. He was a Premier League player, but again, I suppose maybe different ends of their careers as well, weren't they? A bit like
absolutely, yeah. And he came with so much baggage, Jody Morris, as well, which Dan don't have. So,
basically, Dan is a great loss, brilliant player on his day, and a gentleman to come on board and take him to the Premiership. And again, we're going to probably keep talking about Dan until Danny gets here to give Danny a chance to mention it. But he's a great guy as well. I mean, the amount of Rotherham fans on Twitter or on social media that will tell you they've spoken to him and how great he is. Obviously, he came on the podcast this time last year, almost a year ago, and was brilliant with us. Stayed on afterwards for 20 minutes and talked. And every time we've seen him since in person, he's recognised us and had a chat with us. It's another one of the good human beings, isn't it?
Yeah, and you've got to thank the previous management for him being here. There's no doubt. I think he wouldn't have been here had it not been for them. So yeah, full package, isn't it? Full package.
Yeah, and possibly more importantly, so sorry, Dan, we lose Allison as well.
Yeah,
Paramount UK beat me to it. No more Allison Barlas at New York Stadium and following the Millers anymore.
This is almost
a loss.
Yeah. This is almost as upsetting. I'm sorry, Dan, but it is. I know one certain person who's going to be under constant supervision for the next few days, making sure that they don't do anything to harm themselves. So if you're listening, the RUFC, our commiserations go out to you, and we're always here. Just drop us a line.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, mate.
We did try to get Alice on at the start of the season again, but she's got grandkids. Grandkids took obviously take precedent over us, as you'd expect. But yeah, again, Alison came on last Christmas special, brilliant as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will miss the Barlasses big time, but we'll see him again in April. Hopefully, if he sends us down, we take all of this back. Don't mean a single word if he scores the goal to send us down. Talk about the price tag, Mick. 1.5 million. Rumored to be 900k up front with add-ons of 600,000. So take it up to 1.5. We obviously don't know about the breakdown of that, whether that's installments or etc. But 1.5 million. Let's just call it less than 6 months on his contract. That's probably. Do you think that's fair? Do you think that's overpriced? Do you think that's slightly underpriced? What do you think?
I think if that's what we're getting, that's a damn good deal for a player with 6 months left on his contract, and also an indication as to the status that he's held in by other clubs. So, yeah, hopefully that's what we're going to get out of it. Football being football, we won't see it again. We won't see it for 6, 8, 12 months, whatever it is. Because even these transfer fees are paid in installments anyway, aren't they? So, it's not as though Big Tony's sat there counting fivers out at the moment. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's got to be a good deal. You've got to be happy with that. We were anticipating. I think at the beginning of the transfer window, if somebody had said by the end of it, Dan Barlaser will have gone to Middlesbrough, how much do you think? Nobody would have come anywhere close to that amount of money. So yeah, it's a good deal, no question, because of the length of time he's got on his contract.
Yeah. A few questions on the sell-on clause. Shelley, is the fee to Newcastle still active? Heard mixed things. YouTube users said exactly the same thing. The answer seems to be that nobody knows. The rumours I hear is that it's expired. But then I've also heard that it's not expired. I don't know. And there doesn't seem to be any clarification. I know Paul Davis tweeted about it that he's chasing up. If any man's going to get to the bottom of it, it's going to be Paul Davis. And I'm sure if he finds out, he'll let everybody know as well, because that's his job. The strong words are that it isn't active, and I don't know how that works exactly, but that it does seem to be that we've dodged a bullet there. Which again, I suppose is hats. If that's true, Mick, hats off to whoever arranged the deal, I suppose, because somehow it expired. Well,
yeah, I mean, I don't see how that's even a possibility. But I mean, Newcastle are desperate for cash as well, aren't they? So they'll be gutted that we'll have to wait and see, won't we? From a supporter's point of view, it's not really like I say, it's not relevant. I suppose it is really, because these new players, the players we've got in, and hopefully there'll be more before Tuesday. Fingers crossed. Then that money is going to be already earmarked, and it may be that by Tuesday night we're talking about Chio going as well. But if Chio goes again, that's going to be for a fee. So we've brought some class players in. Even the loan players have got to have their wages paid. So the money's got to come from somewhere. So we'll have to wait and see. But hopefully, either Newcastle forget about it, waive it, or it's expired, or it never existed in the first place, or it's 1%. I don't know. Whatever. We'll have to just wait and see on that one. There's not a lot of point speculating, is there? Because as you point out, nobody actually knows.
Yeah. No, they don't. Russ Verne just messaged me saying there's something in the Sunderland Echo saying that there is still an active sell-on clause. Sean Hensby here says, correct, Matt, nobody knows. There's a thought that it expired after 2 years, but why would Newcastle agree to that? Yeah. We may never find out. You know what I mean? We'll have to sort of wait and see.
John Morrell might have the answer to that question there. Don't most sell-on fees clauses expire when the player enters the final 12 months of the contract? He says it's sure that's read in. He's read that that's common in some contracts, so that would fit in with the speculation as to whether or not it's expired. So who knows?
Tom J. Brown says, have we put a sell-on clause? Haven't heard anything, and I think that would have been mentioned, to be honest with you. I'm just going to cover this last comment, possibly our last comment before Danny gets here. IFC says, you could tell Barlasser had gone at Watford doing stupid spins and putting poor passes together. Now, I'm going to go to the opposite point to that, Mick. And again, probably the last point on Barlasser is, I think he deserves a huge amount of credit for continually putting in performances until the very, very end. Excluding the Ipswich game, because I thought when he came on, he was non-effective, but that might not have been him. I think that everybody was garbage.
Yeah.
I think you look at Wilesy, when he had his head turned, he was poor for a long time. Dan's clearly, this move's been on the offing since, it might have been his last window, we don't know.
Yeah.
And I think he's deserves massive credit for not showing, if he has had his head turned, there's no evidence of that on the pitch for me. I thought he's been brilliant till the end.
Yeah, he has. He's hit a poor run of form at the same time that the rest of the team hit a poor run of form. Yeah. And he wasn't at his absolute best. But on the flip side of that, he also wasn't moping about with his head down, trying to get out of doing anything. So, and he took the armband and led the team, certainly in the last two games, to two fantastic performances. So, now, yeah, I've no criticism of him whatsoever. I haven't, The only criticism I've got of Dan Barlasser is the first couple of games he had for us when he looked like a rabbit in headlights. But he soon shook that off and showed us what he could do. And boy, what can he do?
Yeah. Try Mario okay. It just shows if you're professional and play well, you're going to get your move. Yeah. Yes, it does. Yeah. When Danny gets here, obviously we'll obviously give Danny a chance to talk about his thoughts. Before we move on, you got a favourite Barlasser moment, Mick, or goal, or assist, or pass, or something stupid?
There's been so many, haven't there? There's been so many. I mean, the goal against Accrington was a fantastic strike, an absolute sweet as a nut strike. So I guess that's probably the highlight. But some of the, I mean, the setup for Connor Washington for the goal against Blackburn, again, beautiful. The two against Coventry, two absolute peaches, and it just goes on and on and on. We could be here all night talking about this pass, that pass. It is an absolute, Pirlo.
Yeah. We will try and get Dan back on the podcast if we can. We've put the question out there. As you can imagine, he's going to be incredibly busy, and he's got a new club. But I'm sure if he can spare us 10 minutes, he will, knowing the type of guy that he is. J-Boy says it was when he held the four fingers up against Donny. That's one of my favourites as well. Yeah. That pass to Adelican as well. In the I can't remember who against, But that pass to Adelican, where Adelican should have done loads, but were just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first sort of signs of the man that would go on to be, I suppose. Yeah. Thank you, Dan, for everything. Yeah. I did some stats. So I've done the research. I'm going to say him. He's done 152 appearances, 17 goals, 25 assists, 2 promotions, and a Wembley win. That's not so bad. That's not so bad at all, is it? Yeah. So yeah, there we go. Finally, Russ Furnace says, can't forget how kind Dan Barlas was, wishing him a happy birthday when he turned 30 in March. All the best to the Geordie Pirlo. Yeah, exactly. What a guy. Right, we're going to move off from transfers very briefly, and then we'll move back to them in a moment. Shelley IFC says, is Morrison actually out? I've heard different things. Wasn't it in a development team that played on Friday? Now, the reports started on Saturday evening that Sean Morrison had done a quad injury and he's out for the rest of the season. Now, again, first of all, to stress, this is unconfirmed. Matt Taylor and the club have obviously not confirmed this, which you would expect. There's no press conference until probably Thursday or Friday. So we're probably not going to hear anything until then. So we don't know for certain. We don't know for certain the length of the injury, and that we don't know the type of the injury. So what we're going to be talking about is all speculation. We're going to talk about it. The speculation is Mickey's done it. Well, it's difficult. He's done a quad injury. And I've done a bit of research on this, and he would have to have torn it significantly for it to be more than a 4 to 8 week break. And my tab I had open for it has disappeared, to be honest with you. But it would have to be a really, really significant tear to the quad for it to be out to the season, which, if it is, would be just cruel luck. He's been out with, I think it's an ACL he didn't. If he's done his quad now for season, that would be so unlucky. Yeah,
it would. It would for him and for us. We'll have to just wait and see. But we'll have to wait and see what the club put out this week. I mean, for me, I'm not massively concerned. We've only had him for 2 games, and we have got replacements for him. For me, Grant Hall's back, Richard Wood's back. You know, there are players that can step in. Lee Peltier has been. He's more than capable. So I'm not massively concerned from a on the pitch point of view. It's the leadership side of it that might cause an issue, but that's Woody's job anyway. Woody's club captain, and he's done a fantastic job of that over the years, and there's no reason to think that he can't do that now. For me, Sean Morrison seems to be a very similar player to Grant Hall. Very, very similar in the way that they approach the game. The only difference is, I would say, that Grant Hall's got a little bit more pace, but we know that he is prone to rushes of blood, a la Blackburn game away. So we'll have to wait and see, won't we? It is a disappointment. It is a disappointment, but it's not the end of the world by any stretch of imagination. We've had 2 games where we've had the whole bench has been defenders. You know what I mean? So it's not as though we're short in that department.
Yeah, I just checked. If it's a torn quad, obviously this is just Google, so take it with a massive pinch of salt. A torn quad is around 10 to 12 weeks, which is obviously about 3 months. But that's not the season, is it?
It takes you pretty much towards
it. It takes to April, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then he's got to get back to being match fit and everything else. Your season's virtually over. Possibly. If it's hopefully you're getting back in time for the last month, like a new signing, potentially. We're obviously speculating. Paramount UK says he's sceptical of the information. I think you're right to be, but at the same time, this information rarely comes from nowhere. You know, the leaks that generally come out of the club for this type of thing tend to be pretty spot on, to be fair. Whether they should come out or not is a different question. But, you know, this is where we are. If Nicholas Skidmore says Hall is good enough to cover him for sure. Sam Hadfield says on Wood, the issue is Wood isn't good enough. Hall will be injured for a few games, and Harding and Peltier are not centre-backs. Yeah, there's an issue with Wood as a back in a back 2 in terms of the central defenders.
Yeah. J-Boy says he play Yelder there. You play Yelder centre-back, Bramall left-back. But we're in the middle of the transfer window. This has happened now rather than at the Sheffield United game.
Yeah.
If it is a season ender, Matt Taylor can dip into another transfer and we can bring a replacement in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be reluctant to play Humphreys and Helder as two central defenders in a back four, just given the lack of experience, really. You certainly need an experienced head in one of those middle two of the back four. So and I do take the point about Grant Hall being a little bit like Fergie in terms of what he's made out of, and whether he can manage to string 3 games together. We'll have to wait and see. Don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I'm sure, given the way that we've performed so far this January, on and off the pitch, that the club will be all over it. They'll be all over it like a cheap suit, won't they? So,
yeah. Conflicting information whether it was done in training. Sam Hadfield says it was done in training. We had another commentator saying they think it thought it done in a game. I mean, if it's an injury, Mick, does it really matter? If it turns out it was in a game that they'd done, people are sort of saying, well, he shouldn't be playing in these games because he's been injured. But he'd have gone 2 weeks without a game, and having gone a year without a game, he needs minutes anyway.
What we're saying here that they can train, they can do the drills, but they can't actually play a game.
Well, exactly.
I mean, I've coached under 8s and upwards up to under 15s, and if I'd said you're doing your drills and then you're going home, you're not having a game, they'd have gone mad. So I'm sure players are a bit same. Of course, they've got to play some games. Whether it be against each other, whether it be against another team's reserves or whatever. They've got to play some games. So it makes no difference, really. It makes a difference whether it's in training or in a friendly. If it happened in a friendly, if they'd not played the friendly, it would have happened in training.
Possibly, yeah.
Or in a league game. It makes no difference, really, in my view, anyway.
Yeah, I agree. You can't just not play players because you're scared of getting them injured unless they are on the verge of it. That would then be reckless. But he needed the minutes, bear in mind how much he'd not played anyway, for me. John Morell says into Chong, who was at Birmingham last season, did his in training with no one around him. Just one of those things, yeah. People get injured. That's football. You've got to deal with it.
Yeah.
That's that. No other injuries reported, but again, we'll find out. This may be nothing. It may well be he gets a scan next week and it's only a 2 to 4 week jobby. We'll have to probably wait and see. I would be surprised if he did it on Saturday or Friday. I doubt he's had a scan yet. A proper scan. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Hopefully, it's not as bad as what we've heard. Right, we're going to move on to transfers on what was a very, very good week of transfers last week, Mick. We will start with Jordan Hugill, who was coming on a permanent transfer, the first permanent transfer of the January window, which I like. Big fan of a permanent transfer. I haven't seen any notes about a fee, but we've all heard that the wages are essentially incredible compared to what we've paid previously. How do you feel about, first of all, Jordan Hugill? Let's talk about the man himself and the player himself. How do you feel about that, first of all?
We need a striker. We need somebody up front who is a recognised striker. I've seen mixed reports about Hugill. I don't know anything about the lad myself. I've not really seen anything of him. I've not really watched him. And I've seen mixed reports, some really, really glowing, others really scathing, and very little in between, really, to be fair. So it's going to be interesting. I take from that he's a player who needs to be comfortable in his environment. And if he's not comfortable playing in a particular way or in a particular club or if things aren't right, then he's not going to perform. But if he's comfortable and happy, then he will perform. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But that's my sort of take on it. I think it's a good move. Players don't go for £10 million plus if they're crap. No matter what any supporter says anywhere, that doesn't happen. Not at this level, at Championship level anyway. It might happen in the Premier League, but certainly not at this level. So we'll have to wait and see what he brings to us. But we certainly need somebody like that, of that kind of stature. Just to help the ball stick when it does get up there, because that has been a major issue for us. With the greatest respect to Chio, it's not his game.
No.
He doesn't. He's not a player to hold the ball up. He's a player to be turning and facing the opposition and running at them. So we'll have to wait and see. For me, the jury's out just on the basis that I've seen so much conflicting. Information is not the right word, is it? Because it's not information on the internet. It's just conflicting gossip.
Yeah, well, I messaged Gab Sutton. If you're on Twitter, you know Gab Sutton is the oracle of the Football League. So I messaged him because I'm same as Mick. Hugo scored against us, but before seeing I couldn't have picked him out of lineup, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to read out what Gab sent us, because if Gab says it, then it's going to be true. It's a bit lengthy, but I'll just read it out and we can go from there. He says he got a hard rap at West Brom because his finishing wasn't up to scratch at the time, and he's had a tough few years since leaving Preston. He wasn't quite good enough for West Brom, and at Norwich he was competing with Pookie, which is always going to be tough. He's very industrious, hard-working centre-forward who will keep you pressing right to the end. I think he thinks our fans will love him. And while we don't see him as a 15-20 goal seasoned kind of man, there's an outside chance that playing somewhere he will feel more appreciated will give him more confidence to find some form. He's not that tall, but he's got a good spring on him, and his hold-up play is very good. Gab finishes by saying, I like the signing, feel like we're having a good window, which we all do as well. He seems to tick many of the boxes. Many of the boxes. We need a hold-up play. Since Smithy left, we've had no hold-up play. No. It's not worked for one reason or another. It's not worked for Tom Eaves. That's not Connor Washington's job. He does other things better than that. And like you mentioned, Chio's, that's not Chio's job either. Geordie Kelly might be able to do it, but again, he's not stayed fit for long enough. Hugo could be the man to hold the ball up, essentially. Just allow us that little bit of time and space to move the attack forward, really.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. You point out absolutely rightly that we've had nobody this season who's been able to stay fit for long enough to be able to play that role for us. Tom Eaves managed to get 2 or 3 games before he got injured. His first game, his first touch were awful. I think I compared it to Argary Joe when he in his first game, but then he started to really get into it and hold the ball up a little bit better, and then boom, hamstring gone. So we've not had any luck there. Geordie Kelly again, 2 games and another injury kind of situation. So we'll have to wait and see. But for me, it's a positive signing because of his experience and the level that he's played at. We're not picking somebody out of League Two and hoping off the bench at Bury and having to spend 2 seasons getting him into a position where they're ready to play at this level, like we did with Michael Smith. We were able to do that because of where we were. We're not in that position now. We need somebody who's going to fit straight in. So, and Gab said there, he seems to be one of these players who, when he's happy, he'll play well. When he's not happy in his environment, his form suffers. So, fingers crossed he's going to be happy here, and his form picks up.
Yeah. Now again, let's talk about the sort of finance of the deal. We don't know his wages, obviously, and we shouldn't do. The question is, a 3.5-year contract, and he's a 30-year-old player. And he mentioned several times in his sort of signing interview that was one of the reasons. The length of the deal was one of the reasons that attracted him. So there's 2 ways looking at it. You say that's really, really good from the club because the club have gone right. They've done whatever they can to sign this guy. It will give you an extra year, I imagine, compared to everybody else. Or does it say, what the hell are we doing? We're giving a 3.5-year contract to a 30-year-old guy. Which way do you go?
I go the first way. I go the first way because if anybody's stupid enough to think that he's come along and said, I want 3.5 years, and we've gone, okay. Without any consideration, any thought as to whether or not it benefits us as a club, then you're stupid. We've done it Well, I mean, we're not going to do that as a club. We are not going to do that. You know, the benefit has got to be there. Tony Stewart, the person that probably the same people have been banging about not spending any money. Are we just saying all of a sudden he's now going to just go, oh, all right, then I'll spend it all, without giving any thought or consideration to whether it's going to be beneficial to the club? Of course he is. So yeah, it does seem a long contract for a player of that age. It benefits him. It must benefit us.
Yeah.
That's my view. You know, they will have thought about it. We'll have discussed it. It will have been a point of discussion. So,
yeah. Sam Hadfield, I can't find the comment. Sam Hadfield mentions that he believes that there is essentially a break clause in the contract if we go down, where he can go for not much, which works as well. I don't expect those wages are payable in League One for us, if there are any what we anticipate. So possibly, I'm quite excited to be honest with you. We've got the Championship experience. I know we're paying a lot of money wages wise, but there's no outlay in the terms of the transfers. It almost feels like a little bit free. If we get Geordie fit and we get keep working on Washington fit, you've got 3 really good strikers to pick from then. And we're only playing 1 striker, aren't we? We're not playing 2 up top.
Yeah.
If Tommy stays, then you've got a 4th choice there if needs be. You may be leaving, which might be the best thing for him, to be honest with you. But yeah,
Tommy needs some game time, doesn't he?
He's desperate for yeah.
The guy needs some game time because he has got something to offer. There's no question about it. He's got something to offer, you know. But you can't just drop him in after 3 or 4 weeks out and then expect him to hit ground running. It's not going to happen. That's not the type of player that he is. You know, he needs to. He's a bit like Woody. You know, you can't drop Woody in after being out for 4 games and expect him to be on the ball, can you? Because he's not. He never is. You know, it takes him 2 or 3 games to get himself back into it. And I think Eves is a similar player. He's certainly got something to offer, but we'll have to wait and see whether it's for us or not.
Yeah, we will. Sam Hadfield says he's not sure if Tony Stewart has ever been the problem regarding signings. This is the previous manager that was one who didn't want to sign the bigger names, as they normally come with a bit of an ego. Who knows? We may as well mention this now. We'll put an amnesty in for the next 5-10 minutes for the previous manager. It's been something mentioned a few people, and it's going to cost about 20 quid if we have this conversation. So for the next 10 minutes, there's no pounds in the pot if you mention the previous manager's name. We'll talk about Conor Coventry in a minute, but people are. I'm not sure they're unhappy, Mick, but people are now questioning whether Paul Warne was a problem in terms of our survival in the Championship because of his reluctance to sign these players. Essentially, almost what Sam's saying there is that, well, if Matt Taylor can sign these players, what's stopping Paul Warne signing these players? 18 months ago, for example. It is a difficult one because we don't know. Because we don't. These players may not have been presented. Paul Davis reported today that Foster was a target under Paul Warne previously, so we did try and sign him, but Matt Taylor's now been able to sign him for one reason or another. I don't really like it, to be honest with you, Mick. I don't like the idea that Paul Warne held us back because he don't think he did. He did incredible stuff for this football club. Yeah. But I understand the question. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. But I suppose I can understand the question, why are these players coming now, these type of players, when they didn't come 18 months ago?
They weren't available 18 months ago.
The same, similar types of players.
Were they? Who knows? You don't know. So we're straight away we're off to speculation without any sort of basis without any basis for it. There's been some sort of extract from an interview with Warney on that's been taken on social media about him not liking however many players in his squad or wanting a small squad or whatever, but it's taken completely out of context. From my understanding, the stuff that surrounds the bit that we've seen on the internet sort of goes into a lot more detail about it. So it's an irrelevance, really. It is an absolute irrelevance. All that is important and all that we need to know is that Paul Warne was our manager for 5 years, 6 years, whatever it was now, a long time. And during the course of his tenure as manager, he gave absolutely 100% to the cause. And it was incredibly successful. He oversaw probably one of the most successful periods in the club's history in terms of the promotions, the cup win, and everything else. Yet it was a bit of a yo-yo. Yet it were up. Yet it were down, and up again, and down again, and so on. However, overall, it was probably one of the most successful tenures of a manager within the history of this club, given the length of it as well. I know Ronnie did a lot. Ronnie got us promoted a couple of times as well, but that was only over a 2 or 3 year period. Warney sustained it over a little bit longer. So it's over now, isn't it? You know, we've got a new manager in. He's bringing in players that he wants. The chairman said at the beginning of the season he was going to back the manager. We've got to January, he's backing the manager. What's the problem? Just get on with it. You know what I mean? Yeah, he may have held us back. He probably did because he's got his limitations as a manager, and he fully accepts that and embraces it. And if he's successful in getting Derby promoted this season, maybe he won't be able to keep him in the Championship next. We said it when he left. Maybe this is his level. This top of League One, bottom of Championship. Maybe this is Warney's level. If it is, it is. It's nothing to do with us now. You know, he's got us here on the back of a season with a promotion and a Wembley win. We've changed regimes, and the chairman's now backing the current manager, bringing in new players. What else do we need to talk about?
Yeah. John Morrell says managers don't sign these players any day. Who thinks these are barking? It's all technical directors and recruitment teams. We don't have a technical director, as far as I'm aware, John. We have Rob Scott. That's it. Our recruitment team is so slim. From my understanding, it's so slim. Paul One was whether Matt Tiller is as well. I don't know, but I know Paul One was so hands-on with signings. It was almost, he didn't have the only say, but he had a huge part to say in it. Imagine if we had a technical director or a director of football. Yeah, 21st century Millers.
No.
Ray Smedley says he had a theory regarding one that he was too close to Mr. Stewart. So as an example, he says he's a player who's for sale for 100 grand. Mr. Stewart says you can get him for 50 grand if he's yours. Possibly. When you work together that long, I don't know. But yeah, I think anybody that says he held us back, I think is being really incredibly harsh on Paul One. That's my opinion. And like Mick says, it doesn't really matter anymore because he's gone. He chose to leave. Right. That's the indemnity done, Mick.
Yeah.
But any more mentions now, pounds back in the pot.
Right, £5.
Yeah. Right. Next one. Poundwood UK says, can we stop talking about Rotherham for a minute and talk about Coventry? Connor Coventry. Yes. Another signing who is, I don't think, a direct replacement for Dan Barlasser. That's sort of first thing to tick off the list. He is a different type of player from my understanding. I have another message from an MK Dons fan, which I was Jonathan Harris, who we haven't spoken on the podcast before, but he's been interacting with us on Twitter. He says he's a gritty, hard-working, eye for a pass, vocal leader. So maybe a little bit of a Barlasser in there, picking a pass. But another leader on the pitch, which is great, and a hard-working midfielder. Again, perfect, Mick. Perfect.
So yeah, there you go. Move on. It sounds like he's made for us. And if he has got an eye for a pass, that's even better. So we'll have to wait and see how he progresses. But he's certainly got the pedigree, hasn't he? And you look at the West Ham. Look at again. When he signed for us, West Ham let him go out on loan. You look at some of the comments from West Ham players, and again, much like Elder, they were expecting to see him in their first team this season and not loaned out. So the lad's obviously of a level that should be comfortable in the Championship, and it's an area that this signing, I suspect, came on the back of the Barlasser move. Obviously, that was done and dusted behind the scenes to all intents and purposes. So probably is coming in as a kind of a replacement, certainly as a replacement body, if not a replacement player, if that makes sense.
Yeah. We did try signing him last season. At the start of last season, we did try to sign. He ended up going to Peterborough, where he played 12 times in the Championship last season. But again, we know how much of a basket case Peterborough turned out to be in the Championship last season and got relegated with a bit of a whimper. He then went to MK Dons and played 20 times in the league. And we know how much they pushed us. We know how good that MK Dons team was, and I know how much of an important part he was in that team. So that, again, that shows
rightly, when they came to our place and won with 10 men, he was pivotal to that team. He was pivotal to that performance. I seem to, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure we were commenting on him in that game as being quite a key player in that team. So we'll see.
Not goal scorer. Only one goal in his career. That was against Crewe last season for MK Dons, probably from a Crewe goal kick. Direct
from a Crewe goal kick.
Nicholas Gilmore says you don't get in the Europa Conference team if you haven't done something. Yeah, he's played 5 times in this season's Europa Conference League for West Ham. Not clear if they were all starts or not, but I'll find out. I know people joke about Europa Conference League, but it's still European competition. You know what I mean?
It's higher level at Championship, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just saying.
He did play. He played, like I said, 5 times in the Europa League, Europa Conference League. He's also played in the League Cup. He also played against Manchester City in August as well. So he's got minutes against some of the best teams and some of the most average teams Europe has to offer in the Europa League. I'm going to talk about this last time. I mentioned last time. I started to feel really sorry for Jamie Lindsay because this guy sounds closer to Rathbone than he does to Barlas, or I think he probably has got a bit of a Barlasser in him. It sounds like he's being replaced to me.
I'm not so sure, but yeah, it does, doesn't it? It does. We'll have to wait and see on that one. I love Jamie Lindsay.
That's what I mean.
You know, and I would hate to see him leave this football club. I really would. We'll have to wait and see on that. I hope not. I really hope not.
Yeah, me too. Let me just put some context into the minutes. He played a minute in one of the games in the Europa Conference League. He played a minute against Manchester City as well. So when I say he plays minutes, he has played some. If we put Adam together, it adds up to more than one.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think that really should have been. He should have brought that into the mix. I might have, as I've been doing your job, I might have ignored that.
He's got minutes. We'll move on to some other rumours in a moment. Jack McCall says Lindsay is a very good backup. Shame he doesn't get a start because his effort is amazing, but quality is downfall at times. Yeah, well, yeah. Ollie Rathbone's keeping Jamie Lindsay out of the team, I suppose. It's difficult to have 2 of those in one team, and unfortunately, Rathbone's better at it. I think anyway. So that is a shame for him. Gary Townsend, sorry Tommy, if you're watching. Gary Townsend says, "Just hope Eves goes. He's useless." He's been linked with Bolton. You are?
I don't agree with that.
I know you don't. Do you feel the need to jump to Tommy Eves' defence, or should we move on?
No, move on. I've already jumped to Tommy Eves' defensive pass, so I just don't agree with Gary there. That's all.
No, I know you don't. He was linked with Bolton, but Bolton have signed 2 strikers since that link came up, so he's probably not going to go to Bolton. A shame for him, really. I felt like Bolton was a good fit to him, although I wouldn't want to play under Ian Evatt. So maybe that's part of it.
In League One, why not?
Sam Harfield says possibly Barnsley. That'll make perfect sense, to be honest with you. I feel we'll talk about if he leaves. We'll talk about it. I do feel sorry for Tommy. I think he's been dealt a crap hand at Rotherham United. In general, but that's how it goes. You know, it could be worse. You could be leaving Bolton and going to Leyton Orient. Good evening, Kieran, if you're watching. Sorry. Grass isn't always greener, is it? Let's put it that way. Look, we have another one. Gary Townsend is not even good enough for Bolton.
Leave it.
We had a Go on. What?
I said, leave it, Gary. Let it go.
Couple of rumours to cover now. Who have more incomings? We haven't got any outgoing rumours. I might create one in a moment, but we'll see. J Boy says, any news on Cafu? Not the Brazilian one, the Portuguese one. Cafu from Forest is a link. He's a Portuguese midfielder at Forest. I assume it would be another loan. I think we're up to 3. Grant Hall, Yelder, Fosu. That's 4, isn't it? Grant Hall, Yelder, Fosu. That's 3. Coventry, 4. So we've got space for one more loanee. Now we're linked with the guy from Watford. Don't know what his name is. Carlo. No, not Carlo. Kanoa from Watford, which will be a loan if that goes through. But then Millie says, "Here we've heard that Charlie McNeil is coming this week. Unsure if true. You're not going to get him and McNeil. You're going to have to pick one or the other, aren't you? Really, because you can't. There's no point having 6 loans in your squad because you only have 5 in a match day squad. So it's one or other, really, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd have thought so. You would have thought so. We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be interesting these next couple of days. Monday and Tuesday are going to be quite interesting. It may well be that we see some deadline day action from Rotherham United, which would be unheard of, to be honest. We'll have to wait and see. I have to dust your yellow tie off, Matt.
I've got it. I found it just in case we need to do a special show. But the deadline day, the yellow tie is ready to go. I am my shirt. So we're ready to go if needs be. If there is going to be, Joe answers, is there a special? If we get wind of a potential signing on deadline day, we will be doing a deadline day special just because. Millie Click, we might even get a fax machine. Make sure we get a fax machine. You get one, and I'll get one. We'll just fax each other all night. It'd be great.
Are we going to order some off Amazon to come and stand behind you and wave? But my wife won't let me order it.
Yeah, I will send Danny down to New York Stadium. It'd be great. It'd be a right laugh. We're not done. I think Paul Davis he's done an article on Fosu, and basically in the article says we aren't finished. We aren't done. Summerfield says the Cafu one would be a permanent, which would be interesting. I suspect that would be probably a replacement for Barlasser. It seems strange to sign these kind of players, and I know this might sound strange, but we don't sign Portuguese midfielders very often.
No.
Not very Rotherham United, and you never know how it's going to go because they're so different to what we're normally signing.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel very Rotherham United, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because we do need to move into the 21st century. But you never know what's going to happen, do you? Really?
You don't, do you? And having watched some Portuguese football in the past, we'll be lucky if he can manage to get down tunnel without rolling onto the pitch rather than running onto it. So we'll have to wait and see, won't we? But I shouldn't have said that before while the players just even rumoured. We'll see.
Oh dear. He's got some pedigree behind him, to be fair. He's won the Greek championship, I assume that was Olympiacos, so obviously Forest's sister team or whatever they are. He's won a Polish championship and a Polish cup. Let's check some of his stats. Again, there's no... John Hensby says Cafu's stats he never plays. Well, if he's at Forest, they probably forgot they've even got him.
Yeah, I'm going to say he'll be hiding in the corner somewhere.
It would be another player that's been promoted from this division as well. How many players are we unaware of a playoff bid that's incoming? Because all these players we're signing have been promoted, haven't
they? Yeah.
Ridiculous. He played 20 times last season for them. Not prolific goal scorer, 20 goals in 260 appearances with 20 assists in there as well. Let's wait and see. Don't know. We'll have to wait and see, Rick. Anything else you want to cover? We've covered just about everything, to be honest with you. I feel like we had a lot to cover tonight. We've done most of that. Is there anything else you want to mention before I just run through any comments?
I think we have, and just as a general sort of comment, I think that the transfer window this January has been probably one of the best transfer windows we've ever had.
Yeah.
certainly in January anyway. Obviously, it's difficult to sort of compare it to the summer, but certainly from a January point of view, it's been fantastic. The signings that have been brought in so far have all stinker quality, don't they? They all absolutely reek of quality, which is not a Rotherham United trait from before. So fingers crossed that we're not done, and maybe there are a couple more incoming. And if there are, we should be fine. We should be absolutely fine, given the two performances, the way the performances have gone back to doing what we're doing what we're good at. If we can continue on that route, then we should be more than comfortable, particularly with the additions that we've had. So yeah, January has been a good month so far.
If we need to, we're recording on Sunday, so we've got 2 days left of the window. Where are the areas? Just finishing off. Do you think one midfielder, a wide man, and a striker? Two midfielders? What do you reckon?
Depends. It depends on Morrison, doesn't it? Depends on Sean Morrison. It might be that we end up going back into the looking at the defence and somebody else up front. I think I don't know. Anywhere really. We've got loads of players who can play in midfield, who are more than competent enough at this level. More than competent. So everybody needs a striker, don't they? Everybody needs a 10 or 15 goal striker. So yeah, that's probably the area that I'd be looking at. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with Chio, if anything.
Well, this is the room I'm going to make up on the spot for you. Swansea have got rid of Michael Obafemi. Now, he was the guy that was sort of the domino. He's gone to Burnley, and he was the one that Swansea were going to replace with Chio if they got a reasonable amount of money. Now he's gone on loan to Burnley, I assume for some cash as well. So that could be a domino that's just fallen from Swansea's end, which then would make them kick themselves into gear to try and pick Chio up in the next 2 days. The problem Swansea have got is if you're trying to take Chio off as we're a day left at window, there's going to be a premium for that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Whether they're going to be willing to pay that cost is obviously another question. For me, that's one to keep an eye on. I have no inside information on that, but knowing how transfers work, that's how it goes. I also want to mention Burnley. Their admins transfer reveals have been epic this transfer window.
Yeah,
they've been so good.
The Shrek one was something else.
Which one?
The Shrek one.
The Shrek one was brilliant. That was just amazing. The Lord Farquaad one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that were amazing.
Sam, Todd, if you're listening, you need to up the game, mate.
Burnley probably got like a team of 15 people in media team.
Yeah, but
as long as we get signings, who cares? I just want signings through the door, but we should.
Yeah.
I don't want to praise Burnley for too much else, really. After
no.
Shelley RC, he was. Did he miss the sitter on the opening day? Yeah, Michael Obafemi is the one that missed the open goal at New York Stadium on day one.
Thanks, Michael.
That's how good he is.
Yeah,
that's how good he is. Right, let's end it there because I can't think of anything else to say. There probably is something. We will be certainly back on Thursday, where we will be previewing the first and only South Yorkshire derby at New York Stadium this season, I think. Yeah. Sheffield United will have just coming off a draw at Wrexham. We'll talk about that. Talk about what to expect from those guys. We know it's going to be a tough game. Preview that. If there looks like there's any transfer movement on transfer deadline day, we will be live on Tuesday evening, probably later than normal. We'll probably do it maybe 9 o'clock, something like that, because we might need to go through to the deadline potentially if there's something on offer.
That'll be really interesting listen for people, that won't it?
We'll have to get some topics to cover potentially.
Yeah, you might need to.
Yeah.
One of the comments somebody just mentioned there, Ronnie Moore.
Oh God, yeah.
I think we should wish Ronnie a happy birthday from all of us. Good man.
Yeah, the king. One day we'll get Ronnie on podcast. That's the dream.
I don't think he'll come on.
Oh, we're going to get him on.
I
One
think
way or another, we'll get
I think he's got face on with us because we didn't put him in.
Us? No. Us. Not me.
All right. I think he's got face on with me because we put him as manager of the all-time 11 and not a striker. I'm sorry, Ronnie. You can have both, mate. You can be player manager. Happy birthday.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Ronnie.
Love you, mate.
We do love Ronnie. Well, we'll get him on one day. And yeah, we'll talk about all the nonsense that's going to happen in Sheffield United on the Sheffield United game. The early kickoff, remember, Saturday. That's exciting. Thank you all for being with us. We'll try and find out what's happened to Danny, and hopefully we're with us next time. I'm sure he's fine, but we'll go from there. So please do subscribe. We'll keep up to 900 subscribers on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do subscribe on there. We ramp up to the nearer the target. And if you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, or whenever you get your audio podcast, please subscribe. And if it allows you to give us, please do a 5-star rating. Gosh, we're getting loads of them, so they're really, really good. Mick, it's been a pleasure. Just me and thee again, like the old days. Thank you for being with us.
About Danny, I don't know where he is. I hope he's all right.
I'll text him.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, and we'll maybe see you Tuesday. If not, we'll see you on the normal episode on Thursday evening or Friday morning, whenever you listen. Thank you very much, everybody.
Cheers.
Ravel, vicious, but brilliant. Mule with it. Wood's got round the back, and Richie Wood has done it again. The magic man has come up with another trick. Well, here's a chance to seal it. It's done.